Bill O'Reilly is going to go after Jon Stewart here for slamming his Super Bowl pregame interview.
Thanks for watching us tonight. Making Jon Stewart understand America. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. I must say, the left in this country, extremely creative. They spin and put out stuff that never ceases to amaze. The latest is about my interview with President Obama. The liberal spin is the interview dealt with phony issues, stuff trumped up by the Fox News channel.
I don't know if you saw it on Fox on Sunday there, but before the Seahawks scrimmaged with the team of stoned Colorado teenagers, Fox aired another world-class matchup as the most powerful man in the free world sat down with Obama to cover topics like loose nukes, Middle East peace, trade regulations, and the environment. I'm just with you.
Lydia, your detractors believe that you did not tell the world it was a terror attack because your campaign didn't want that out. I got to get to the IRS, but you're saying no corruption, not health care. When did you know there were going to be problems with those computers?
Look at that, O'Reilly dipping whole scale into the full Fox scandal grab bag. And while many of those issues have been thoroughly investigated on multiple occasions, it's a big show. It's a Super Bowl pre-show. You got to play the hits.
Mr. Stewart echoing what President Obama said, that some of the issues I brought up have been, quote, thoroughly investigated, unquote. Of course, that's a farce. There have been no cogent explanations about why the administration misled the world over Benghazi. There have been no arrests either in the terror killings there. Likewise with the IRS, no explanation about who was behind the targeting of conservative groups, even though the president vowed to find out. And finally, on Obamacare, only 8% of people using the Affordable Health Care website, 8%, say it's working well after all these months. Again, no explanation as to why that is. Are you hearing me out there in left-wing fantasy land? Good grief.
O'Reilly is such a character, man. He's fun to watch. He's entertaining. He's a great broadcaster, I'll give him that. It's a shame that everything he says is bullshit. So let's go one by one here. First, to that, only 8% say that the website is working. Oh, 8%? That's such a low number. Too bad it's a bullshit poll, and it's also old. Because the website, I don't know if you know this, Bill, I know you don't keep up with this shit if the answer is not the one that you like, but the website has been fixed. Case closed. Moving on to the next question. Yes, there were problems at the beginning. Everybody condemned those problems. Everybody said that it should have been ready from day one. It wasn't, but now it has been fixed, and now it's all set. By the way, just like Medicare Part D didn't function properly for a longer amount of time when Bush put that into place, just like Social Security and Medicare didn't function immediately the way it was supposed to function, sometimes things take time to correct and work properly. Now we've gotten to that point. Okay, that's taken care of. Next to the IRS scandal, here's the thing. It's not a scandal. In fact, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened right now. So the problem was that there were these 501c4 groups, which is a tax classification, okay? And a 501c4 group, by law, is supposed to be something called a social welfare group. In other words, you're not allowed to do something called electioneering with a 501c4 group. You're only allowed to do social welfare with a 501c4 group if you register as that, okay? So what happened was there were all these Tea Party groups with the Tea Party explosion in 2010. There were all these Tea Party groups registering as 501c4s. But there's a problem with that. You're not allowed to do that because you're not for social welfare. You're for electioneering. You're for trying to get certain people elected and pushing certain causes. So, number one, there should have been extra scrutiny, especially when the groups are explicitly anti-tax groups. They're like, we don't like the IRS. We don't want to pay our taxes. That's the whole purpose of our group. So now we're going to apply with the IRS for this sort of classification. So number one, by definition, there should have been more scrutiny. But here's number two. You ready for this? None of them were even rejected. If anything, the IRS went too soft on these groups because they shouldn't be 501c4 groups, and they did get their classification as 501c4 groups. You know how many conservative groups didn't end up getting their classification that they wanted? Zero. This is a totally fake issue. In fact, the only group that was rejected from 501c4 status, a progressive group. Totally fake scandal. You are living in the right-wing bubble if you believe it. And by the way, I didn't get this knowledge because Barack Obama has a direct phone line to me and I pick it up and he tells me what our spin is. No, I got it from reading articles in the newspaper. Okay? And then, ready for the last one here? And this is probably the biggest one. Benghazi. Yeah, Bill. Benghazi is settled. You just don't like the answer. In fact, he did a whole 2 or 3 shows on the settled answer talking about how he disagrees with it. Now, what am I referring to? It was a New York Times investigative report that was, it took a long time to gather all the facts and do everything right, and there was New York Times reporters who lived in Benghazi to get the answers and had people on the ground at the time who took part in this and had all these different sources, and it was an incredible amount of work over an extended period of time. And you know what they found out? The narrative that everybody thought was bullshit about, look, it appears like this was, number one, sparked from this anti-Muslim video that people were angry at, and number two, these were actually NATO-backed groups and Western-backed groups that we had armed for them to help overthrow Gaddafi, okay? That's what the findings of the report were. It was, hey, you have people who are not affiliated with Al-Qaeda, and you have people who are just angry at this video, and we actually arm them. That was the findings. He doesn't like that because that doesn't conform with his ideology, because then he can't go out there and say Obama was lying, because it turns out he wasn't lying. It turns out that's exactly what happened. In fact, did you know we actually have, this is according to the investigative report, we actually have one of the people who did the attack, okay? We were able to get their phone lines tapped, and there was a call to somebody, I believe it was in Somalia, who was part of an Al-Qaeda-affiliated group. And when this guy said to the Al-Qaeda-affiliated guy, we actually pulled off this attack where we, went after the area in Benghazi that was the Americans. The Al-Qaeda guy was surprised. He's like, what? You guys did an attack? All right, good for you. So that's your smoking gun. That's your nail in the coffin that Al-Qaeda was not involved, like they said from day one, okay? And also, Obama still called it terrorism the day after, but you just wanna pin something on him, so you just gotta ask the questions that are part of the right-wing bubble and the narratives that have already been proven not to be true.